When we get new fish for aquariums, we usually need to acclimate them to the water parameters of the aquarium that you're putting the fish into. Today, I'm going to give you guys a very easy DIY trick on how to acclimate your fish, and you probably have all the supplies already at home. Hey fish friends, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Zenzo from Tazawa Tanks. Now, when it comes to acclimating our fish, we want to do it for a few reasons. Usually it's temperature. So if you buy fish at a fish store, you get them from a friend, or you go and get them at an auction or something like that, or you get them shipped to you in the mail, you want to make sure that the temperature of the water matches the temperature of the aquarium. So you don't want to take the fish directly out of a cold bag and put them in a warmer aquarium, or vice versa. So we need to make sure that we're doing some type of temperature match. Now, oftentimes we'll just take the bag and float it in the water, and that's kind of what most people do. And that's great for temperature, but it doesn't account for things like pH, salinity, etc. Now, most of the time, after doing a temperature match, I will do the plop and drop. Meaning I'll take a bucket, I'll put a large net over it, and then I will pour the bag and everything that's in the bag through the net, and then I will just have the fish left over, and then I'll put those fish directly into the aquarium that they're going into because the temperature has been matched. Now, I do this in most cases, but in some cases, I will actually do an acclimation. If it's a rare fish, if it's a fish that might be a little bit more sensitive, if it was a fish that was recommended that I do a drip acclimation to, or obviously if I'm adding fish to a saltwater tank and things like that, I'm going to be very careful in matching the salinity between the water that they came from and the water that they're going into. So I will do drip acclimation. Now, in the past, when I would drip acclimate, I would have to get a bucket, put it on the ground next to an aquarium, and then get like an airline tubing and either get like a clamp or some kind of valve and slowly drip the water from the aquarium into the bucket and try to match it that way. But I learned a much easier and a much cleaner way of doing it, and it's basically free. Now, I learned this trick from Justin from Ocean Aquarium, and if you're not familiar with Justin and Ocean Aquarium, I recommend that you watch this video up here or the one down below or the one at the end of this video, whatever. There will be a link of this video somewhere. It's from Aquarium Co-op, where Jimmy and I went and filmed a full video at Ocean Aquarium, and we learned a lot about how he cares for fish. And one of the things that he did is he basically made this little drip acclimation cup for me, and I'm going to show you how to make it. And the reason why he made it for me is that when I was there, I bought a couple of fish. Well, I bought a few fish, but a couple of fish that I bought were from the Amazon. They're Peruvian puffers, and they're not readily available. They're hard to get right now. They're pretty expensive, and so he thought that the best thing for me to do would be to drip acclimate them when I brought them home. So he made this very nifty little drip acclimation device, which is basically just like a to-go cup, and some airline tubing, some super glue, some wire, etc. So I'm going to show you how to make this very easy. I made one last night just to try it out, and took me all of maybe 2 minutes. So we're going to make one together. Now, as far as what you need, you probably have most of these items laying around the house already, especially if you keep fish, or even if you don't. So you're going to want some type of container. Here I've got like those to-go containers that you'd get from like when you take home takeout and soup or something like that, or some kind of sauce, some kind of leftovers. Justin made his out of a cup, kind of like a Starbucks to-go cup or something like that. You'll need some scissors. You'll need some kind of pokey thing to poke a hole in either your cup or your container, a lighter, or you can use matches or any kind of hot heat source, and some super glue. And the last thing that you need, well, two more things, is you're going to need a little bit of airline tubing and a piece of wire. And if you don't have like this kind of wire, this is safety wire, you can use like a paper clip. Just take a paper clip, a smaller one, open it up, and you have a wire. Now, as far as the airline tubing, you want to make sure that the airline tubing is kind of that the cheaper vinyl stuff, and not like that good, not the good airline tubing, but kind of the cheaper plasticky feeling one. Because we're going to be doing a little bit of melting on this. Now, I do have another camera set up right over here. You probably can see it, or maybe you can't. But anyway, I've got another camera right here so I can try to get a couple of angles because I'll only be doing this once. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put a hole in our container here. And this is where the lighter and your little pokey device, this is like a little metal scratch awl I actually made this out of a motorcycle spoke years ago. But basically all I'm going to do is I'm going to heat up the end of this little pokey device here. And once I have it nice and hot, I'm going to stick it through the cup and make a hole. All right, once I have it hot, I'm going to just pick a spot near the bottom of the container and poke it through. And just like that, there's a hole in there. Now, obviously, this is not large enough, so you can heat it up more and kind of ream it out a little bit to make the hole a little bit larger. I happen to have this little, I don't know what this is for, like for body shops that I had years ago when I used to work in a body shop. It's just like a little thing that you can go back and forth like in fiberglass or whatever to make a hole larger. So all you're going to do is make the hole just large enough for you to fit that airline tubing in, not any larger. You want it to be very tight and barely squeeze that airline tubing in. Now from there, all we're going to do is we're going to take our little airline tubing and we're going to cut a piece off. Just a very short, I don't know, 2 to 3 inches, right around there. It doesn't really matter how long it is. I'll just cut one that's, I'm going to guess it's about 2.5 inches or something like that. So I'm just going to take this little piece of inexpensive airline tubing and squeeze it through the hole that I made in this container. Okay, now that I have poked the airline tubing through the container, this is the part that takes a little bit more patience, and we're going to put some super glue just around the edge where we put the airline tubing in, because we want to seal the opening that we just created. So we want to basically seal, so we don't want to allow any water to escape along the outside of where the airline tubing is. Once you've done that, just set it down and let it dry for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and finish the project. Now, as the glue was drying, I did realize that I forgot one part of the assembly, and that's a pair of pliers. You're going to want a pair of pliers. Doesn't really matter if they're needle nose or traditional pliers, anything is fine. Just something to be able to pinch the airline tube when it's hot. If you want to use your fingers, I wouldn't recommend it because it's going to be too hot. So anyway, from this step, all we're going to do is we are going to take our wire. We're going to put our wire or your paper clip or whatever you decide to use, and depending on how fast of a drip you want, you can change how thick the wire is. So if you want a faster drip, you can use a much larger gauge wire or a much thicker paper clip. If you want a very slow drip, then you would use a smaller paper clip or a smaller or a thinner wire. So this is safety wire. I don't remember the exact gauge of the wire. I'll put it down below. But this seems to be a good thickness and very similar to what Justin was using. Now from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully take my lighter and I'm going to heat the outside portion, any portion kind of along the middle part of the outside part of the cup. I'm going to heat that with the lighter. I don't want to burn it all the way through. I just want to make the plastic very soft so that I can mold it to a different shape. It'll start to bend, and then very quickly I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to pinch where I made that hot spot. And then I'll just kind of pinch and hold for a couple of seconds, and then I'll release. And now you can see that the area where the heat was, it has been pinched. The next step from here, very easy. I'm just going to wiggle my wire around and pull it right out. So now you can see that I have a cup, I've got a tube coming out, and I've got a crimped end with a hole in it that is only as thick as this wire. And just like that, you're done. So now I'm going to show you how this works. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to do the acclimation. Now I'm not going to catch a fish and recreate everything. We'll just pretend like there is a fish that I got from the store, and I emptied the bag into this container. This is the Aquarium Co-op specimen container / catch cup. You can also just use a bucket or anything, any kind of container that you have. I like these because they rest right on the side of the tank. And then in this situation, if this is the water from the store and the fish is swimming in there, I would just take some tank water, set that right there, and just like that, it's dripping into the holding container. So in this situation, You can see that the water's dripping. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see the water drops. So this is tank water. This is water from the store. And the water will be mixing over a period of time. If you wanted, you could also put like a stone in there if you wanted some aeration or something like that, an air stone. But the good thing about this is this water dropping is also creating some surface agitation. So you're also getting some aeration there and getting some oxygen in there in the container for the tank, for the fish. So yeah, overall a very, very simple, easy DIY acclimation device that just blew my mind. I love this thing. So hopefully this fun, little, easy, very simple, inexpensive DIY trick was helpful for you. Hopefully you're able to replicate this and make your own drip acclimation device. Before you go, please do me a big favor and hit that like button, especially since YouTube changed things around and they no longer allow the dislikes. The more engagement that we get, the better it is for my channel, the more ability I have of doing these kind of videos like this. So hit that like button, and if you have not done so already, I don't know why you haven't, but please subscribe to my channel. That's all I had for now. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.